eventually.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
That term retarded, I just heard it the other day. I don't remember the context. I think it might have been about the presidential debate. The part about eating cats and dogs, the Haitian immigrants. Somebody on like Bill Maher said it was retarded. And then Bill Maher then replied back in a sentence, yes, it's totally retarded or whatever. And I was like, what are the rules of usage for this word? Because I thought this was a 100% banned word. The way that like the N-word is banned, you know what I mean? Or something like no, you can never say this on the Bill Maher show.
I mean, I feel like it's gotten a resurgence recently, but yeah, I thought the only thing, like, it's a flame retardant was already like, ooh, is that okay to say? It dances on the edge there of what's acceptable. But like, I mean, when speaking about a mentally challenged or handicapped person,
yes,
I think that you are not supposed to say mentally retarded. Right. Definitely not just retarded because that's pejorative. But I mean, when I was in grad school, we said mental retardation, mentally retarded. Like, this is a mentally retarded individual. Like, that's what was in journals and stuff. It was not pejorative at all. It was, this is the phrase that we use for a person whose IQ is less than 80 or whatever.
Yeah, in high school, when I was a kid, right, the locker room stuff was like, you'd call each other retarded. You'd call each other gay too, or that's gay.
Right. Gay meaning stupid, right? Like, oh, that shit's gay.
No,
right?
But clearly
that's like, oh, you meant like you were calling each other gay. Like, you're like,
well, no,
like
gay. That's stupid, but it was also, no, it was very clearly that like, this is what a gay person would do. And being gay was bad when I was in school. Mm-hmm, I mean, if I'm being totally honest.
Right.
But we would say, yeah, God, you're such a retard. That's so retarded, whatever. Now
it's
you
so
know
gay, it's retarded.
So this thing is so gay. Hey, we speaking of episode titles.
Yeah, right.
Robert and Kalyn Get Rich. So gay, it's retarded.
Don't get us banned on YouTube.
But... My God, we would get a flame war for that.
Yes. And rightly so, probably.
Like, but you know, Cody and his buddies now, they run around and like, that's so autistic. You're so autistic, which sounds to me like worse because they're saying...
But like we don't say autistic anymore. That's another thing that's like gone off.
Don't?
Like it used to be Asperger's and autism, and then autism was like a spectrum that there's like Asperger's here, and then like you go to like the individuals who like are nonverbal. Like now it's like, oh, now we're all just neurodivergent, and it's like anybody who's like slightly weird about anything, and I'm like, okay, I feel like all of y'all little Generation Alpha or whatever all really want to be like unique snowflakes. And you're like, and everyone needs to recognize how unique I am. Here, let me tell you, I'm neurodivergent. I'm also I'm a sapiosexual demi whatever, blah, 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 blah. And like, I identify as an owl or whatever. No one gives a shit what your sexuality is, period. Unless you're like engaging in a conversation about, oh, should we date? Or do other things that dating people do? That's the only time it's relevant. No one else cares. I love the people that freak out about being misgendered. I just think it's so, like, everybody's so sensitive and everyone wants to be so special. And it's like, ugh, okay. Like, you need to go back to, like, the Gen X stuff where it's like, children are not valuable. We just go outside for the day and we're done with you. And, like, hopefully you don't get abducted.
I feel like there's so many damn generations now, right? Our parents are boomers. Then there was, like, nothing until you're a Gen Xer. 25 years later. And then there was the next thing after that is millennials.
Right. I saw something that had each generation's thing.
What was Gen X? TV?
Gen X. Okay. Life-defining events for Gen X are end of the Cold War, Live Aid, first personal computer.
Live Aid.
I don't know why I don't know.
Live Aid was a generation-defining event.
So Gen X, they have Cold War, Live Aid, first personal computer. Communication is email or SMS.
Yep.
Key technology is PC. Hobby is surfing the internet.
Yep. So far, they're doing fine.
Yeah.
I think.
I feel like I relate to that a lot. Then millennials, 81 to 97, that technically is me by 1 year. And ours is 9/11 terrorist attacks, Iraq War, and advent of social media. Social media, for sure.
For sure.
They say that our communication is instant messaging. Our technology is the smartphone. And hobby is video games. Yeah, iconic figure. Yours is Kurt Cobain, which I feel like that's my iconic figure for sure.
Aw.
Like angsty ass teenager. That's
Gen
like
X is taking Kurt Cobain. You can't have him.
I could be born in 1980, and ours is Mark Zuckerberg. I'm like, you know.
Well, then what's after millennials then? Or we?
Oh, sorry. Out? No. We have not run out.
Because I've got two that were born post 2000, so I need to know.
Yeah. So then Gen Z's 98 to 2016.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Gen Z, their thing is the post-Great Recession, Arab Spring, and rise of AI.
Really? AI already gets credit? Okay.
Fair enough. Mean, yeah, I don't know. This was from 2016 also. Their way of communicating is emojis. Their key technology is AR/VR.
All right, this is where the article falls down. They wrote this article too early, right? They didn't have the gift of hindsight to look back and see which of these. Because VR, come on, that's... Like, that doesn't define any generation, not yet.
Yeah. It's definitely a lot more, like, prevalent now.
It hasn't changed our lives, changed the world. So that's why, Zuckerberg, that guy that you idolize so much in your generation, like, he spent billions on AR and VR, and then they had to quit that bullshit because it hasn't really paid off.
It's like 3D printing. Everybody thought it was going to be the thing. This thing has an interesting, it's like the aspiration or attitude towards technology, attitudes towards work. For Gen X, aspiration is work-life balance, attitude towards technology, digital immigrants.
The next generation's natives, or the Z generation for sure natives.
Oh, natives is Gen Y. Millennials and Gen Y is the same. Oh. And then attitude toward careers, loyal to profession, not necessarily to employer. My generation's about flexibility and freedom, digital natives, digital entrepreneurs, work with organizations, not for organizations.
The way they said it, where you work with this, you don't really ever feel like you're part of that company. You're working with them and you're selling your service to them.
Yeah. And right. I guess I feel in between on that kind of thing too. Like I do not feel like any sense of like the loyalty to a company thing.
Oh, United Health until I die.
There is nothing I care about more than improving our bottom line. Like, no. So anyways, I feel like I'm in between generations. So we call ourselves Zennials.
Zennials. Okay. Like, by the way, being derogatory towards boomers is definitely a thing out there. This phrase like, okay, boomer, whatever you say,
Yeah.
So
I feel like the younger generations are starting to be derogatory towards us also. It's been recent that I've started feeling like, man, I guess I am old because I don't even know what you kids are freaking talking about for the most part. Like this Sigma stuff and like Riz and all these phrases that I'm like, why are you not just saying the actual word?
When I saw a commercial for the MTV Music Awards, which I could hardly believe still are a thing, but then I was like, all right, am I going to have heard of one of these artists on the MTV Music Awards? And they're like, da-da-da-da, these names are flying by, and then Lenny Kravitz. I'm like, oh, hell yes, Lenny Kravitz. I heard he brought down the house, Lenny Kravitz. Eminem crushed it at the MTV Music Awards. He's 56 years old or something.
Whatever. Should we look at our portfolio?
Well, I was going to say at some point here, we probably ought to kick off the show. So with that, here we go. Let's cue the music. You are listening to Robert and Kalyn Get Rich. Today is September 18th, 2024. This is episode 22. I am Robert Kimmel. I'm one of your hosts. This is Kalyn Kimmel, my sister, your other host. I don't even know what that word was. I am Generation X. She is a millennial or a zennial. Or an exennial. Who the hell knows? But one thing we do know is what, Kalyn?
We do not provide financial or investment advice. Not here.
That's a thing we know. It sort of came across as like a negative. Like we know, don't not do this or something. Anyway, you get my point. Anyhow, we are a show. We're the one and only comedy show about personal finance. So we talk about personal finance if we feel like it, or whatever else it is we feel like. And our goal is to have a little fun, make you laugh, and make that terrible, terrible, terrible Friday commute just a little more bearable. So yeah, Kalyn,
right.
you asked about the Get Rich portfolio. Hold on to your seat because here it is.
Are we up?
We are up. We are in the green. 0.74%.
Oh my God.
Oh,
Back in black.
back in
I
black.
love it.
And you know why? Because of our pick in the IPO.
Oh, I knew it.
ETF.
I knew it. I wish Andrea was here. If you recall, Andrea was like, no, this thing's dead in the water. Not doing it. Nope. I was like, we're ready to go to the moon, from what I see on this chart.
Well, Andrea, let's see what her pick in the first pick of the guest portfolio. Let's see how the guest portfolio is doing.
Yeah.
Down 1.1%.
Oh!
Suck it.
Instant validation. What do you mean you used to work on Wall Street, investment banker?
Exactly. It's started up today, but down since we bought it. Like an awful lot of these investments, the second you buy them, they go down.
Not IPO stuff, though.
And
how's our other stuff doing? How's our OG investment on Reddit?
They're one of the main swing factors in this investment portfolio. Reddit is up today, but down 8% lifetime.
Bummer.
Chewy is carrying the water, up 45%. Good God.
Kidding.
And True. These are our best investments, 35%. And Phillips, 15%. Anything related to uranium is down hard. CCJ and our Denison Mines option.
I am an owner in real life of uranium stuff, so I'm a believer. You say it's a good thing, and I'm like, done. That guy's way smarter than me, so I'm sure that Robert's analysis is accurate.
When I look at our personal portfolio at home, everything's up. Except for the things I personally picked. I just thank God every morning that like the S&P is up because my uranium investments are down so hard. When Andrea's like, how's the portfolio doing? I'm like, it's pretty good. It's doing good. Yep, we're up. And it's not because of uranium, I can tell you that much. I'll show you the S&P 500. This is the baseline if we'd have made the same investments at the same time in the S&P 500. It's up today. It's up 6%. It's going to be hard to catch, man.
We're at 1%.
Yeah, one thing.
Well, it just takes a couple of things swinging around for us. Uranium falling in line and
something. One of these lotto tickets is going to hit, and then we're going to be crushing it. So
we've had our big loser.
Yeah,
who shall not be named.
She's talking about Chicken Soup for the Soul Entertainment for all of you new listeners that went out of business. One of our investments. You know, the Fed is due to announce rate cuts today. And the big question is, will it go down 0.25% or will it go down 0.5%? I'm just guessing, but if it's 0.25, then my guess is the market will be pretty flat, maybe down a little bit. If it's 0.5, they'll get excited about that and it'll be up.
Right.
I'm sure you knew that today was Fed Open Markets Committee Day and they were going to make this decision about the rate cut.
It's on my list of things to talk to you about.
All right.
What? Yeah.
What are your viewpoints on the matter?
So I was amazed when I was looking at potential car loans. Did you know that used car loans and new car loans, you have a different rate?
Yes, I did.
Credit score?
Yes.
And it's a pretty significant difference too.
Huge difference.
My credit score, as you may recall.
What was it?
Achieved the unachievable. 850. And so I was surprised that for a used car, what was quoted to me from one of my financial institutions that I have a relationship with, it was like 7.5% or something like that. And I was like, what? That sounds like a lot. I mean, this was rates from one of my banks. I was just doing this online and they gave me instant approval without having to check anything because they know me. Yeah, that kind of thing.
And they know you're an 850 kind of person.
That's right. Which I'm like, I'm an 850. You want to charge me 7.5% interest on like a $6,000 loan? I was like, okay. But like my last car, I got financed through Nissan, and then they had my title up until it was totaled, and I needed to get the check for it. Like I didn't realize I needed to like get it from them. So they'd just been like I paid it off like 9 years ago, something like that.
And you could totally imagine Nissan losing it in the bureaucracy, like some guy going to the file drawers in the basement. And, let's see, Kimmel, Kim. Yeah. Is that like Jimmy? Kalyn, you want to talk about residual value? So we go to this party on Friday night, 3 couples, and these other 2 ladies that are there, they have these bags. The brand is Goyard or something. And like, we're sitting around drinks and these like Goyards are featured prominently on their laps. You know what I mean? And Andrea goes home and looks these up. So here are Goyards used at $26.50.
Yeah.
And $26.95 and $2,000. Oh, you could get a business card holder for $900.
Yeah.
Used. The signature on a Goyard is this herringbone pattern.
Like an Escher.
To me, it looks like Qbert. You remember Qbert? Qbert was like the most annoying.
You had that video game?
Yeah, it was like the most annoying video game there ever was, because you could not move directly right or left or up or down. You had to move at angles, and of course, you're doing this on a crummy Atari joystick or whatever. But it's a fine enough looking bag.
They're leather, or
I think they're like kind of plastic.
They look like plasticky to me. Like they look like they're not leather. And like $3,000 or whatever for a new bag. It's expensive, but nothing compared to some of these bags, Birkins and stuff. This is a Hermes matte crocodile 18 karat diamond Himalayan Birkin for $315,000.
Wow. Yeah. The diamonds and whatnot give it some value, don't they? But
I mean, it does have value. It's like delivery's $14.95 for that bag, by the way.
$14.95.
Like, I can't get free delivery for a $315,000 purse.
No doubt.
But
why don't you call your bank and see what kind of loan they would give you for the $315,000?
Right. I mean, it's like a house.
Yeah. It's like a house with way less residual value, probably.
Yeah. I have seen articles that talk about how well Hermes Birkin bags retain their value because they're so rare and there's so few of them, blah 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 blah. But I'm like, I guess if I'm gonna have it in a safe or something, I'm for sure gonna bang it up. Like every bag I ever have, even if I try to be nice to it. I like nice handbags, but I don't need it to be that nice for sure. I don't know. Molly gave me one that's worth a good amount, probably in the $3,000 range, but then that makes me not really want to use it that much, even though it's awesome.
Well, you could list it on Poshmark and sell it and pay down your car.
I really like it.
I had one other thing from last time, which was we talked about Jason Kelce. And then once again, wouldn't you know it, but Jason Kelce shows up all over my television screen. You remember these are the guys from the New Heights podcast that got the $100 million minimum contract. So he's pimping Cheerios commercials and stuff.
Yeah.
So
I feel like this is the first time I've ever seen either of them.
Do you know who Talor Swift is?
I have heard of this person, Talor Swift. Yes, I believe so.
Is she in the papers?
Yeah. Wait,
is she in the
she's
talkies?
An artist of sorts, right? Yeah, I do know Talor Swift.
So Travis Kelce is the one that you'd have way more chance of knowing. The Republicans have this conspiracy theory that their relationship is arranged so that she'll endorse. Or somebody's got to connect the dots.
I remember hearing about. Yeah, it's a really weird one. It's like something about the date of her concert and like his number on his football and I was like, what? I know you QAnon people like really go to town with this shit, like these symbols and stuff.
I love that numerology stuff and symbols and patterns. You know, like, here's this Bible story and the guy gets a fish and like fishes are also referenced in this verse and they symbolize blah, blah, blah. And, you know, I love that stuff.
Well, Judaism goes to town with that shit.
Is that right?
Like... Yeah, so every letter has a corresponding number, right? Uh-huh. And so whatever words add up to, then you have things that mean. They go really deep into numerology and whatever. Like Aleph is the first letter, and like I can't remember what the first Hebrew word of Genesis is, but it's very meaningful that they're like in the beginning. They geek the fuck out about that, and I'm like, man. Like,
yeah, this sounds like it's right up Dad's alley. He loves telling the story of like, what's the first word of Genesis? In the beginning Well, in some versions, it's when the beginning or the
right. Yeah.
Because
And I'm like,
think about what that implies. That means maybe there was a time before the beginning. He came and listened to my pastor's sermon and was about turning the water into the wine. And the pastor was like, people, you are the wine. You are the miracle. You were the plain Jane water. And now Christ has converted you into the amazing wine. And Dad's like, ha, whatever. This verse, this has nothing. What? I've never heard that before in my life. And you're like, okay.
And he's like, I'm going to learn ancient Greek and Japanese. And I'm like, what is your deal with learning languages right now? Like, he's like super, super into languages. And I'm like,
yeah. Well, he plays that game.
God. Yeah. Whatever the Duolingo game or whatever it is, it makes lots of sounds, right? It's like, moshi, moshi, blah, 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 blah. And then you have to say something or pick something or whatever. And they're like, bring. Dad does that shit everywhere. And I was like, why don't you get headphones? And finally, I had to give him a pair of headphones.
Right.
But he has noise canceling. Anyways, whatever. But Mom was like, it's so nice. Now I don't have to take out my hearing aids because I don't have to listen to Dad do these games all the time. But I'm like, you were going to sit in an airport and like, he does. He'll go to public places and on regular volume, have the thing talking to him and bring, bring. I'm like,
okay, boomer.
Like, just, yeah. I mean, like, you are aware that there are other people around you, right? And there's a solution where you can continue to play your game. You can do whatever you want to do. I mean, it's like the people that walk around playing music on their phone.
Yep.
Just like in the elevator. And they're just like, I'm listening to this song.
Yeah.
And so are you.
I don't run into many people like that in public, but I do in my house. That's Cody, who hardly ever wears headphones. Cody goes to other people's houses. The mom of the friend or whatever is like, Cody's the perfect citizen. What a perfect angel. Opens the door for people, polite, blah, 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 treats others with respect. He comes home and he's like, throws his shit on the, like, fuck this. Like, what kind of fucking dump is this, Mom? Like, and like, there is something about Andrea that just annoys the hell out of Cody. I mean, I think it's a little bit of the for control being a little bit and OCD and things go in their spot. And I want to know, how's your homework going? Like, I'm the parent. I need to know these things. And he's just like, Mom, get off my back. It is just Jekyll and Hyde, depending on who he's with. It's incredible.
It reminds me of one of the Christmas letters you sent out when he was 3 or something. You were writing what everyone's like purpose was. Andrea's was vacuuming and Cody's was pulling out a drawer and dumping it on the ground. I'm like, since the beginning, those two have been at odds about, you know, things being just so.
I've had to dial back the letters because 2 reasons. One, he reads them now. And then also people were just like, you were pretty tough on Cody in this letter. And I'm like, it's true. He is a pain in the ass to live with. But okay, fine. I'll say some nice stuff about him. One of my letters was like, Cody is a total freeloader. He does nothing and he lays around and we clean up all his shit and wash his dishes for him. And people are like, that was kind of mean-spirited for a Christmas letter. And I'm like, well, that's how I feel. I write the letter and he doesn't read it, but now he does.
Reading this year's, Kiara was reading it and she was like, yeah, Cody's too cool for doing da-da-da with us, but Kiara's not too cool for anything. And she was like, I think my dad just called me a dork. Like, I was like, yeah, I think that's probably true. But you're the princess, so you know.
Do you have any other topics before we get to our segments?
Well, one quick note: I did actually break my own rule of buying the single sodas. I wouldn't normally have done it, but I did decide I am dying of thirst, and it was a mashup that I was like. What? Why? And yeah, it's so you know how when you eat an Oreo, how you're like your breath is right immediately after? Like,
no, I don't, but go ahead.
Like, okay, I feel like I can smell the Oreo when I drink it. I don't really taste it, but then I smell Oreo on my own breath. It's like weirdly chocolatey. It's foul.
I think I'm not very breath aware. Andrea is picking on me incessantly all the time about my breath. And I'm like, first of all, I find it's a little rude to tell people that their breath stinks.
I can't imagine that yours does, though. Your very good about brushing and flossing and everything. You don't
And tongue
drink a ton of
scraping
coffee.
even. Yeah.
I've never ever in my life noticed your breath. Never.
Andre has a very sensitive nose as part of it, to the point I even wonder if she imagines phantom smells. She'll walk into a room and she's like, "It smells like cat pee in here." And I'm like, well, maybe a cat peed. They certainly did one time in the past 5 years, so you probably still smell it.
Right. Like literally, I for good or for bad, I can't think of a single time in life that I've noticed your breath. Unless I was like, have you been eating sour cream and onion chips? Because I want them.
Yeah.
Like, your breath smells like my breath wants to smell.
You taste
Coke
the darkness.
Zero Oreo. Like, I taste the dark cocoa or something. Like, it. I don't know. I feel like I can smell it. But,
you probably can smell it.
yeah, I had a friend, my friend Josh. He's died sadly, but like, he had cancer in his tongue and he had to have 80% of his tongue removed, right?
I remember that. Yeah.
So they rebuilt one out of like inner thigh, which is crazy.
I can't imagine it could taste though, right?
No, he could not taste.
Okay.
And so one thing he really missed was having a Coca-Cola. And so whenever he wanted one, he would just get it and he'd smell it. Because that was like as close as he could get. Up until that point, I had never even thought about like how a Coke smells particularly. But I guess most of our taste is in the smell or whatever.
Here's another thing. See if 5-pound gummy bears have a smell. Let's try that.
I know this one does.
I think this is a natural segue to the 5-pound gummy bear.
Yeah, totally.
I believe it's cherry flavored, if memory serves.
It is cherry. It's absolutely cherry.
The bag is looking like it's had better days.
Yeah, no, I was thinking I needed to swap out the bag after 4 days.
I gotta imagine if the bag looks bad, the gummy bear looks like he's really been through the war.
It looks like he's got 2 chunks taken out of his butt from last week.
How quick was Andre to be like, eat his butt, eat his butt?
I know. Like, I was like, okay.
All right. Whatever winds your clock, babe. All right, here we go.
So, yeah.
Kalyn is going to take a bite.
So let's do the weigh in.
Oh, weigh in first. Okay, before and after, yeah.
Well, yeah. So this says 4 pounds, 11 ounces, 0.4.
Here she goes. We're going out the top of his head. Oh my goodness. This might be the biggest bite yet that Kalyn is taking out of the head. These bites are hard work because she
they are hard work.
Bites off more than she could chew, honestly. Wow, that is one chunk.
That's a pretty big dent.
Yeah. We got this huge chunk out of I almost think you should spit out that and weigh the piece.
Okay.
Let's see if our math adds up at the end of the day.
It is 0.9 ounces.
Wow.
So almost a tenth less than.
Almost an ounce.
I'm like, let's get it up.
So we should be in the 2 bites. All right.
Let's just add to that. Let's see. Oh, that's 1.2. Yeah. I thought.
Oh my God, this is boring.
Okay, I'm getting there. Okay. Jeez. I just want precision. See, now it's 1.6. Damn it. Robert.
I've got things to do. Tapping the pen.
Okay. Well, then okay, I'm putting it back.
You're putting it back.
I'm at 1.5 ounces.
All right.
1.5 ounces.
All right, here they go.
Now I'll weigh it, and then I'll be chomping on it the rest of the podcast.
Uh-oh. I see that the S&P 500 is just rocketed upwards.
Oh, does that mean they did the 0.5 interest?
They announced a big rate cut, 0.5 percentage point.
Look at that.
We're rich. Right. Now
Yay.
you can go borrow that car money for like 7%.
So now I got 4 pounds, 9 ounces, 0.9.
Yeah, you're in the ballpark.
Let's do a scam of the week.
Yeah, let's hear it, Kalyn. What have you got in the way of a scam of the week this week?
So I thought I would pick up from last week and talk about Martin Shkreli. What's his name? How do you say this?
Shkreli.
So he is famous for being the pharma bro, but that's not actually what he has been in trouble for. He basically came up, worked as an investment banker and then decided to create his own investment banking firm. So money management, whatever, capital, blah, blah, blah.
Something with money.
Yeah.
Thank you for this lesson in investment banking, Kalyn. That was very informative.
Yes. He created his own, and in 2006, he was sued by the Lehman Brothers because he'd shorted a ton of stocks and they couldn't cover his losses. And so they sued him for like multiple millions of dollars. That didn't stop him though. So he shut down that firm, made a new firm, and then he shorted 32 million shares of another stock and left one of the other banks high and dry. So that's another 7 million. So He went to prison for securities frauds because he was also manipulating the price. Then he had to close down again. Because apparently that's what you can do. You can just, once you get to the point where you can have your own investment firm, then it's just the world is your oyster.
Game on.
Yeah, right. Okay, so you can just make these crazy ass bets that don't pan out, and sure, you'll get sued, whatever. At first, it was just a civil suit. Like, just Lehman Brothers, like, hey, like, you need to pay us. Actually, what he, like, got sent to prison for several, what's it called?
Years?
Is it called years?
Yeah.
Is that what we call, like, three? It's like a lot of days, a lot of them together.
Yeah. But not like 3,000 days.
More than a month, less than decade.
So you're thinking decade? No, not decade.
No, so it was like 2 charges of securities fraud and like some conspiracy charges or so. He got a 7-year sentence, served 4 years. But we know him from what he did after that. He became famous after this because he opened yet another firm, another investment firm that was into biotech, and they bought the makers of this drug that's often used for malaria and HIV. When he bought the company, they were selling for roughly $4 a pill. He immediately increased it over 5,000% to something like $900 a pill. Yeah. And then he refused to lower it, and also actively blocked other companies being able to come up with a generic. So, really slimy dude. It's not exactly a scam, but I found it very interesting that he did did that stuff. P.S. From that one drug, he made $65 million. There's been a suit filed against him where he has to pay that back. So his net worth went to zero. He was in jail for 4.5 years or 5 years, and he got in trouble because he'd somehow gotten a phone into jail, and he was running his pharmaceutical investment company from prison. And he's finally been banned from pharmaceuticals, and he's protesting it. And he goes like, I really feel like I can contribute to the development of drugs. I'm like, you can contribute to nothing. He's been sued by the FTC, the SEC, the Attorney General just filed a suit against him. So he's had to pay back all this stuff.
That's batting for cycle right there. That's like winning an EGOT, getting sued by the FTC and the SEC. Like,
I know.
I got to say, he's like the little engine that could in the world of scamming. If at first you don't succeed, try again. I mean, hats off to him.
Yeah, don't give up.
Once you have a playbook,
that's just the way that like once you get to be where you can open your own investment firm, then it doesn't matter what you do after that.
Yeah.
You can open another one. I get that the SEC and the FTC are supposed to be doing shit to prevent this, as should Lehman Brothers and, I mean, the next company, I can't remember what banking institution it was, but I'm like, I feel like it's kind of your fault. Like 3 years later, he's pulling some other mega short sale, 32 million shares he shorted.
Yeah.
After the 2006 and 2007, the Lehman Brothers and the other thing, they went to prison for. He was required to pay back $7.5 million. And so the government goes in and like starts claiming assets, right? One of the very interesting assets that they claimed is he owned this Wu Tang Clan album. Wu Tang Clan had decided that they were like pissed off about the streaming world and blah, blah, blah. And they were like, so we're going to make this album and we're going to make one copy of it, period.
Yeah.
They deleted all the master files. They made one copy. It's in this very ornate, bejeweled, silver encrusted box. He paid something like $3 million for it, right? Yeah. And that's one of the things that the government came and seized. It has been since sold for $5.5 million to this other company. The whole idea for Wu Tang Clan, they were like, we want it to be like the Renaissance, where there's patronage of artists and that music is valued in the way that fine art is. And I don't think that was ever the case. Like, and also that's not exactly how the patronage system works, from my understanding.
Come on, Wu Tang, get your facts straight. I could see a single copy Wu Tang album being worth a couple $1,000,000, 100%. It's sort of like a baseball card, right? An original Honus Wagner or something, and worth a couple $1,000,000.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
So,
right. I mean, especially this is not even the Wu Tang Clan have the copy of this.
Right.
So you own everything related.
Plus, you said the cover was bedazzled, so that's worth something. It's like some of those expensive Hermes handbags that have like diamonds on them.
Yeah, it's like silver and jeweled and whatever. Right. Apparently, he also wanted to buy like Kanye's album, and he offered him like $15 million for one of his albums.
This guy's like dripping in yeah,
because he made $65 million from changing the price.
That doesn't mean you can go spend 15 of your 60 million on albums.
Well, I mean, he's got credit with Liebman and all of these people. They're like, yeah, do whatever you want. We're sure you're good for it.
Yeah.
Like, because you're
history's
totally
any guide. You're a stand-up guy. I mean,
yeah.
Even the second bank, fine. Second bank, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. And then the third time around, other people gave him money to invest in this. Like, who's giving this clown money at that point? It's incredible how the world works.
Well, like, I guess that his investors for that HIV drug,
those guys did well.
Absolutely critical. Yeah. Now he's having to pay that back.
I'm a little surprised that was anything illegal or anything, but oh well. So.
And I don't remember exactly what it was. That this is the 2020 ruling that has been filed by the Attorney General that he needs to pay back because of his price, blah, blah, blah.
Maybe it's the anti-competitive behavior or whatever.
That could be
That's a great quasi scam, and it's just like, here's another personality type that it's just hard to the stones on a guy to go for the second time, put huge dollars on a short sale and be no big deal if my company goes bankrupt. It's just, I'm wired so differently than that. Maybe Shkreli would come on our podcast. We were talking about podcast guests pre-show, so maybe he'd be a good one. I have the feeling like by the time the podcast was over, he'd own the podcast and we'd owe him $1 million. But anyway, it seems like he's got that sort of
Or he would definitely have talked us out of our savings for sure.
He's got that kind of skill set.
This guy's definitely going to make some money.
Yeah, wait, I like what I'm hearing here. I mean, I know the other thing flopped, but damn, this is a good idea this guy's got. That's how you get rich. Combination of little engine and could.
Yeah, take advantage of people with HIV and malaria.
Yeah. All right, so I don't think we can invest in the Wu Tang album as part of our portfolio, but I am curious, do you have a what the hell's in Kalyn's portfolio?
One was just Procter and Gamble, so that's not that exciting. The other one is Howmet Aerospace.
Howmet Aerospace. I believe I've heard of that. It sounds familiar, but maybe we should do some homework on Howmet.
Yeah.
I got the chart here. All right, so they're up 0.5%. You can see the moment that the Fed interest rates changed here on their stock chart.
I wonder what's going on with the Bitcoins and stuff.
Bitcoin jumped, I'm sure, today.
Yeah.
How about Dog Whiff Hat? How did it do? Yeah, Bitcoin's up 0.5% today.
Yeah, Dogecoin is up $2. LTC is up 10 cents.
Dude, year to date, Bitcoin is up 43%. My God. So my podcast recommendation of the week, actually a series of podcasts, but they're called The Compound. So The Compound, they'd probably blanch if they heard me say this, but they're as much of the show that I crafted this show to mimic as any. So like the way we sort of banter before the intro, and then the fact that we're having fun and laughing. If you took our show, but you added a whole bunch of financial expertise that we don't have, right? And it's people who know what the hell they're talking about, bantering back and forth about the markets. And then you add in New York accents, New York Judaism.
Forget about it.
Yeah, there's all this like, they're talking about the stocks, So this guy, downtown Josh Brown, he was a blogger 15 years ago, and he's worked his way up to CEO of Ritholtz Wealth Management and has a bit of a media empire here where they have 6 or 8 shows that they do every week of different types. But the main one, the flagship, is called Compound and Friends, comes out every Friday. It's a fun show to listen to. You do have to have some financial savvy. It's not for the Dave Ramsey audience. It's for people who want to talk about interest rates and their effects on the market. But if you're kind of at that level, I really enjoy listening to the Compound and Friends.
Cool. I will listen to it. It sounds like you've listened to I Will Teach You How to Be Rich.
Yeah, of all the podcast recommendations you've made, that's one that's really stuck. So when it pops up in my up next feed, I tend to go ahead and listen to the episode. Although they are starting to sound a little bit alike, I have to say.
And you watched the Netflix show, right?
I did, until it's turned super gay. And by gay, I mean gay.
Stupid.
No, I mean like gay. Like all of a sudden, we were done with these old families, and then now we're on to the cross-dresser and the guy who won the game show is gay as hell. And I'm like, and there's nothing against that, but honestly, it was like, it's getting to feel a little bit like the restaurant makeover show or whatever. Instead of making over a restaurant, we're just making over this guy's finances. And it does start to feel a little bit the same. And you leave off before you really feel like you know how it turned out. which is the true of all show like that. Even like Shark Tank, even when they used to go back to like, here's how this company is doing, you're like, I don't know. I don't really feel like I got a good feel. I mean, everybody's all smiles. And that day we sold 5 million pudding scrapers. But then you're like, yeah, well, how's the pudding scraper market held up since then? I don't know.
Yeah, man, the Ring guy, the guy who came up with the Ring doorbell, came on there and nobody wanted to make a deal with him. And now he's come back as a shark.
Same thing as Peloton. Okay, they didn't come back as a shark, but Peloton was laughed off the stage. I mean, I don't know anything they've picked that's actually done great. And I've heard that those sharks come in and they just like pillage these. They're like Shkreli. They would probably get along well with him.
That's frankly how I see them. All of them. All of the financial people.
All these
I'm like, y'all are all bad.
Sons of bitches.
Everyone's bad.
Yeah, you are all bad. Well, Kalyn, all we can aspire to is that someday we will be the rich, evil people.
Well, no, we'll be magnanimous.
Good.
When I take on my final form as a unicorn Pegasus, I will be a benevolent ruler.
I will shower my wealth and my earnings upon the land. Well, all right, here's to being a benevolent rich person. We will investigate Howmet as part of the homework for next week's episode, and we'll talk more about it. If that's not a cliffhanger, and if you're not looking forward to the Howmet discussion next week, I don't know what you are.
Buckle up. They work on forged wheels as one of the things. Forged wheels. Yeah.
Enough about
and fastening systems. So I'll say no more.
Enough about Wu Tang. We're on to forged wheels and fastening systems. With that, cue the music. You have been listening to Robert and Kalyn Get Rich. Thanks so much for listening. Robert and Kalyn Get Rich is a production of Get Rich Media. Be sure to like and subscribe. Recommend this to your friends. Send us an email, Robert and Kalyn Get Rich @gmail.com. Kalyn is spelled Kalyn. The one thing you should never do. What was it, Kalyn? Remind me.
Look to us for financial or investment advice.
No, the guy you want to look up is Martin Shkreli. Go talk to him about financial advice. He knows how to
get money from people, for sure.
You will leave that meeting with a much lighter wallet than you went into it. With that, I think that's about it, Kalyn. I think we say goodbye to the good folks on their commute. Take care.
That sounds good.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. Have a good weekend.